You have probably heard about this by now, but Alex Jones has been removed from Facebook. And then later on that same day, yesterday, he was also removed from YouTube. InfoWars has been also removed by Spotify and some of their podcasts from the Apple Store, in what appears to be, to me, a coordinated movement. We know that these companies talk behind closed doors and have in the past, and I don't find it unlikely at all that these companies collaborated together to remove him all at once. Alex Jones is mostly an entertainer, and whatever you might think of the guy, the idea of removing him from all popular social media platforms within such a short period of time sets a bad tone. Who will be the next person? And what will be the next step to keep those who step out of line from spreading their ideas? Will Alex Jones have his PayPal removed as well? Only time will tell. Alex Jones getting deplatformed is the perfect example of what the media was complaining about not too long ago. When anyone criticized them, questioned their integrity or their ability to fact-check their own stories, they made it out to be some sort of act of censorship. "We're the media!" they screamed from on top of their mountain of virtue. To question a journalist, or worse, to attempt to silence them, is to attempt to prevent the free press from bringing truth to the public.
He has done everything he can to delegitimize the media since becoming president. Mr. Trump has tweeted about fake news more than 100 times.
Well, I don't know, Mr. Holmes. Do you think it's possible that there have been at least 100 stories with fake news in the last 2 years? I find it entirely possible, since the press lies even when they don't have to. That was just one of hundreds of clips on YouTube of armchair political analytics weighing in with their professional journalism degree that they likely pulled out of a Cracker Jacks box. I could play clip after clip. We would be here for hours of just CNN playing the victim because somebody questioned their integrity or their credibility. But when it comes to removing somebody's voice from the public space, oh, that's not censorship. That's not censorship at all. Remember, freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom from consequences unless it's somebody that makes a comic book movie I like or somebody that makes a cartoon that I like. Then, oh, there are no consequences. What about my free speech?
Also interesting is, remember, it's illegal to possess these stolen documents. It's different for the media. So everything you learn about this, you're learning from us. And in full disclosure, let's take a look at what is in there and what it means.
With all of that having been said, I bet you are expecting the media, the principled free press, to speak up on Alex Jones' behalf. This is wrong, they must be saying. Even if he gets things wrong, everybody knows about Alex Jones and the way he tends to get things wrong. Everyone knows his credibility. His reputation speaks for itself. I mean, we get things wrong too, right? To silence a media outlet like InfoWars sets a precedent that gives the tech industry an unhealthy amount of control over what is discussed online. If you thought that, you must not have been following these people for very long. The media cheered and gloated as Alex Jones was removed from YouTube and Facebook, applauding Zuckerberg for finally stepping up to battle misinformation. This is not their concern for the integrity of discourse. This is about the media applauding as their competitor is silenced. This is, of course, after they spent a sizable amount of effort trying to persuade tech companies to remove InfoWars. Yes, this is how shady they are. They released article after article last week calling for YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Spotify, and every other conceivable platform to do something about the Alex Jones problem. Now that Twitter is the only mainstream social media platform left with Alex Jones on it, people are spamming Twitter and the CEO with demands to remove him. He is not in violation of anything other than having a thought they didn't approve of. Think about where this will lead to. If we continue down this path, these companies will start to control the information that people have access to. They already do to a certain extent. Information that goes against what the mainstream decides is truth will clearly be suppressed. You will inevitably come across the brilliant analysis that because they are a private business, they can do whatever they want. They can break any law, and that's totally fine. This is, of course, really stupid. Businesses have been sued in the past for infringing on civil liberties. There is no distinction in the Constitution that says none of the rules apply to private businesses. It would be tricky to force these companies to enforce their policies equally rather than selectively, but it would be possible. As we have seen with enough support and momentum, these companies can be made to change their rules. Just look at how things have changed in the favor of the outraged already. This is an ideological tug of war, and if we get complacent even for a second, we will lose even more ground. These companies care about their value, their worth, and their monetary gain. If you make it hurt their wallet, they will respond accordingly. I am not a fan of Alex Jones's news reporting abilities, but I do find him to be an interesting character, an entertainer rather than just a news anchor. I find the mainstream loathing of him to be so strange, something that I think is beyond rational. Alex liked to ask questions that others didn't, the sort of thing that outlets like MSNBC and CNN are supposed to do themselves. In fact, they pride themselves on it. Instead, they hand off stories to analytical talking heads that sneer at those they disagree with and continuously drive home points they picked up from Media Matters earlier on that day. In fact, it would not surprise you that these companies have done the same thing that they have accused Alex Jones of doing. The difference is that they feign professionalism while doing so. Remember, they are the ones that stared us in the eyes, telling us that calling them fake news was undermining the work of the free press. They were actually trying to convince us that reputation doesn't even exist. As long as you work for a corporate news company, you automatically have credibility. At least, that's how they play it off. Do you know what Alex Jones hasn't done? He hasn't engaged in intimidation campaigns or blackmailed a person for making a GIF he didn't like. CNN has made that person apologize, saying that they would leak their personal information if they didn't bend the knee to them. So-called media watchdog group Media Matters was completely silent. Even when I asked them directly for comment, they refused to condemn such a straightforward, unethical act. The very people who were most vocal about taking Alex Jones off the internet are the same ones, the same people, CNN, that have done these things. They also got caught last year manufacturing news stories in the UK, making literal fake news. There was a truck of peace delivering a great message of multiculturalism, and CNN went there to report on a candlelight vigil, which was actually organized by the crew members that were there. Not good enough? How about when CNN pretended to save an old man from a sinking truck? That happened last year as well. Here's another one. CNN wanted to interview this woman that operated a Facebook page that Russian interest groups ran ads on. The woman did not want to talk to them, called them fake news, and told them not to bother her again. Somehow, they came up with the woman's information, the woman's address, and they showed up to her house anyway, asking why she was working for Vladimir Putin. This is the same thing that these CNN fans rip Alex Jones for, because McCrisis hook! Yet, this one hardly got noticed at all, was almost entirely swept up under the rug. For a company like CNN to lecture anybody on honesty, ethics, or journalism is irony at its finest. Considering how hard they are shilling against Alex Jones, I wonder if he wasn't onto something. Alex Jones might be a little eccentric. He might get some things wrong, but that is not why they felt it necessary to get rid of him. Based on their track record, it's obvious, at least to me, that this is not an act of preserving quality dialogue, but rather silencing somebody that they are competing with. Every person that claims to be for free speech should be speaking up for him right now. This is not a matter of a bakery in a town with a dozen bakeries respectfully asking somebody to go down the street to a different store. This is a matter of a monopoly enforcing their ideology. Just as businesses were eventually held to labor laws, tech companies will eventually be held to the Constitution. It's only a matter of time and a matter of people getting fed up with their practices. We don't have to make them a utility. That is not the only option. This is not a dichotomous situation we are in. There are as many ways out as we can imagine. Don't let them tell you that we just have to bow down before their selectively enforced rules. There are always more options. Don't tell somebody like Glenn Beck that, though. Somebody that is under the belief that because they're a private business, there's nothing anybody can do. Hey, everybody. Hey, throw out the Constitution. We're dealing with a private business, and that supersedes the Constitution.
Yesterday, we're looking for Alex Jones. You may have found him. Today, you're not going to find him. I mean, a celebration in some regard for, common decency. iTunes and Facebook, they're private corporations. They can do whatever they want. They can make it up as they go if they want. I don't like it, but they're a private corporation.
Of course, Glenn Beck is one of those people who rides the fence, hoping to win favors with those that would never support him under any circumstances. No matter how many times you bend the knee and kiss the ring, they will always demand more. Take, for example, the fact that all of these people who called for Alex Jones to be pulled from all forms of social media aren't even happy about it. They only want more. All they know is demand. And when they finally get what they want, they move to the next thing. Here are dozens of Twitter professionals reminding us all that it isn't enough to shut down his accounts and ban him on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify. And he has even had some of his podcasts removed from the Apple Store. Instead, all they can see is that he still exists on the internet at all, and they're moving in to fix that. Just look at all of these tolerant people that claim to know so much about the value of free speech and discourse, and yet when it comes to support somebody saying things they don't like, it's a different story. Remember, freedom of speech, not freedom from consequence, unless they make a movie I like. I have to remind everybody who we're dealing with here. These are people who have an endgame and are willing to do anything and justify it in any way in order to win. I would suggest that all of you start thinking like they do. Hold them to their own standards, but most importantly, play to win. Focus on the outcome and push towards it. If we slow down, if we give up advantages every time we have them, we won't last another decade. It is clear that remaining passive is only going to cause more stringent restrictions on what we're allowed to talk about, while we are just trying to have discussions that the media won't have and facing censorship as a result. People who were making top-tier intellectual jokes like James Gunn, Michael Ian Black, Justin Roiland, Patton Oswalt, Sarah Silverman, Dan Harmon, the list goes on, they will all have media lackeys shilling for them saying, "But my free speech!" Yeah, but that free speech they talk about is conditional in their eyes. You make a comic book movie they like or a cartoon they like, you're allowed to do and say anything, and they will defend you. The Young Turks radicalize, or attempt to, their audience with rhetoric and downright lies, and are endorsed by YouTube. They get premium treatment despite them being far more dishonest than Alex Jones. If you are sitting there saying InfoWars should have been shut down, I ask you, where does the line end? Where do you think the already power-tripping tech companies will end in their campaign to bubble wrap the internet? With all of that having been said, thanks for watching, everybody, and here it is, your moment of clarity. This is a banana. Fox will try to tell you it's an orange. Alex Jones will say, this is an apple. He might scream, apple, 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 over and over and over again. He might insist that this is an apple. But Alex Jones doesn't get to decide what truth is. We do.